Ladies and gentlemen, ADOS land, ADOS community. This is Lions Den with another news and commentary. We got another presidential candidate is opposing reparations, and his name is Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is running for the independent candidate for president. This article, according to the Tennessean, it says Schultz announced in January he was considering an independent bid for the White House. If, quote unquote, quote, he said, if I choose to run, millions of lifelong Republicans will come my way, he said at the Unring Summit in Nashville on Sunday. So Howard Schultz, the former Starbucks CEO, mulling an independent run for president, said he doesn't support the idea of the government providing reparations to African Americans, a policy proposal gaining traction among some Democrats. Rather, Schultz said the federal government could invest more in other programs that would benefit minorities, which in my opinion is not enough. But I'm gonna continue reading. It says including increased funding for historically black colleges. I'm gonna stop you right there. ADOS community. This is what he says. He says that he opposed reparations, but he's funding the HBCUs. That's not enough for us. That is definitely not enough, and you might as well scratch off this candidate because he's not for reparations. And, I mean, again, like you say, he provided, going to fund colleges, black colleges and universities, but that's still not enough for us. That we deserve our reparations, we deserve our money, and to us, it's not good enough. I'm going to continue reading this. It says, I quote, I would rather look forward than look back, Schultz said in an interview Sunday in Nashville. And in looking forward, I think there are ways to address this issue. I will have a different view, and mine will be looking forward, not backwards, in how to invest significant support dollars and programs within the African-American community. Okay, a number of Democratic presidential hopefuls have chimed in on the question of reparations, whether the government should in some way compensate descendants of slaves, and have expressed support for such an initiative. California Senator Kamala Harris, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, and former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro are among those in recent weeks who have spoken favorably of the federal government implementing financial policies to reckon with racial injustice. Schultz, a formerly a longtime Democrat, has not previously spoken publicly on the topic of racial reparations, which he described as a very complex question. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another guy who's not for reparations, but he's going to support programs and support our black colleges and universities. So, but he's a former CEO of Starbucks, and he's a Seattle billionaire. And he's running for an independent, party of president of the United States. And to us, it's not good enough. We want reparations. We want trillions worth of reparations. And obviously, he now said he do not want to, basically, he did not want to talk about reparations. He wants to put finance on programs, which is definitely not enough for us. And if I were you guys, I would not vote for this guy. If he's not for reparations, he doesn't get our vote, period. So I'm going to go ahead and continue reading this. He said he was in Nashville for the Unring Summit, a conference targeting millennials and focused on uniting the right and left to fight corruption in politics. Saying rather than implementing a system to directly pay, get this, guys, descendants of slaves in America, Schultz said he has considered the idea of increasing funding for historically black colleges and universities, which he described as under tremendous financial pressure. They do not get the philanthropic funding that other universities get, Schultz says, and they serve a great purpose in America. One idea is to look at opportunities to fund those schools in ways that will be incremental to the current situation. Schultz hasn't yet determined what an appropriate dollar amount might be for increasing funding for HBCU. That's such bull crap. He's bull crapping around. He's not going to do anything. He just basically do what politicians do, talking and not doing it. If you, funding HBCUs is fine, but we want more than just funding HBCUs and funding programs. We want reparations. And we're going to continue talking about reparations until you guys will agree to do it. Let's move right along. It says, I don't know what the number is, but I think the idea has merit, Schultz says. And Schultz, talking about, said the United States has a race problem. Duh. But the thing is, you talk a good game, but you're not supporting reparations. And at the ADOS community, since you're not supporting our reparations, we're not supporting you. So I'm going to continue reading this. It says, Schultz said the country absolutely has a problem with racism and injustice, and that the solution is to talk about the issue. We've been talking about the issue for decades, and y'all not listening. Y'all not listening. So how are we going to take what y'all say very seriously? He says the only way we're going to solve the problem is having an honest conversation, some of which at times are uncomfortable, but have those conversations, Schultz says. While featured at a CNN town hall event in February, Schultz drew criticism on social media for his comments about race after being asked about the 2018 racial profiling incident at a Philadelphia Starbucks. And you know what? He was basically, ladies and gentlemen, was CEO of Starbucks before the incident happened in Philadelphia. For those of you who don't know. And he stepped down because of all that pressure they was having with Starbucks. And then they had to do a class about race relations and whatnot. And that's in Starbucks. And he was CEO at that time. And he had no choice but to resign and step down. But I'm going to continue on. He says, as somebody who grew up in a very diverse background as a young boy in the projects, I didn't see color as a young boy, and honestly don't see color now. But yet you was a CEO, a billionaire in Seattle, and you own Starbucks, and yet you say you don't see color, you don't see race, but then you should have done something about the race issue when the incident in Philadelphia happened. I'm going to go ahead and continue on. It says, lifelong Republican will come my way. While Schultz announced in January he was interested in a bid for president as a centrist independent, and that's another problem, he's a centrist independent. He said he likely won't announce whether he entered the race until later this spring. I'm going to stop you right there. And even if he does decide to run, ADOS ain't going to support him because he made it clear that he's not going to help for reparations. So even if he does run for president, he's not going to get ADOS's support. And obviously, he talk a good game about, well, he growing up in a, I'm going to go back. When he says that, obviously that, he don't see color and he grew up very diverse background. However, growing up in a diverse background doesn't necessarily mean that you support the black community. And again, the thing of it is that after all, 500 years is long enough. When are you going to go ahead and do what's right and give us reparations? When? All them candidates trying to talk about reparations, he opposed it. So let's just say if he does run for president as an independent, you're not going to get ADOS's support. I'm telling you. I'm telling you what I know. You're not getting our support. If reparations is not on the table. If reparations is definitely not on the table, neither every presidential candidate will not get ADOS's support at all. So he says Schultz was briefly interviewed on stage at an unrigged summit. Our democracy is being threatened not only by a rigged system and a level of corruption, but a president who does not deserve to be in Oval Office, Schultz says. Despite being the subject of heckling from a handful of audience members, including some chanting, ironically, billionaires for president, Schultz said he was undeterred by the assault that has come from those saying he will take away votes from the Democratic nominee and propel President Donald Trump into a second term. There are lifelong Republicans who, given a choice between Donald Trump and a Democrat, will more likely vote for Donald Trump, despite how the character and morality of this president is inconsistent with their values, Schultz told unrigged attendees. Quote, "If I choose to run, millions of lifelong Republicans will come my way." And that's the end of the article. Ladies and gentlemen, this candidate, Schultz, who is a Seattle billionaire, who was a former CEO of Starbucks, which, by the way, he was CEO when the incident, when they arrested these three brothers who were sitting in the Starbucks waiting for a friend to arrive. He was a CEO until they would force his resignation. And now he come out and say, well, I'm opposed reparations, but I'm going to go ahead and fund it, money for colleges and universities, a lot of HBCUs. Well, he's going to be running as an independent. So we know that you're going to be funded. Now, the biggest question is that will the ADOS back them? And the answer to that is hell to the no. We're not going to back anybody that's for supporting of reparations, period. So, Howard Schultz, we appreciate that you're going to help the funded HBCUs and stuff like that. But since you're not going to support trillions of dollars worth of reparations, then the ADOS will never give you the support you deserve. We're not backing you. So again, we will withhold our vote if necessary until any presidential candidate say, okay, we're going to give black people reparations, trillions of dollars worth of it. And I'm telling you, that's the only thing that we will go out and vote. And unfortunately, none of the candidates we see as of right now that's not supporting reparations. So Howard Schultz, thanks, but no thanks. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell for all the news and commentary. With that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.